A life between worlds. Living with a dream demon, Jade discovered, was a lot like living with a very possessive, very deadly cat. If cats could materialize through shadows, had knives for fingers, and occasionally rearrange reality to suit their mood. It had been 3 weeks since the stalking incident, and Freddie had taken his role as protector to levels that would have been suffocating if they weren't so oddly endearing. He appeared at random throughout her day, checking in with the dedication of a supernatural helicopter boyfriend. Jade would be folding laundry and suddenly feel the temperature drop, turn around to find him leaning against her doorframe with his fedora tipped low, just watching. "Everything okay?" she'd ask, amused. "Just making sure," he'd reply, those burn features arranged in something almost soft. "You good?" "I'm doing laundry, Freddie. The most dangerous thing here is the static cling." "Static cling can be a bitch," he'd say seriously, and then disappear back into whatever shadow he'd crawled out of, leaving Jade laughing and shaking her head. But it wasn't just the protective stalking that had become their new normal. It was everything. The way he'd started keeping her company during mundane tasks, fascinated by the rhythms of human life he'd forgotten. The way she'd catch him standing in front of her refrigerator at 3 in the morning, just staring at the contents like they held the secrets of the universe. The way they'd somehow built a life together that existed in 2 worlds simultaneously, neither fully in one nor the other, but somewhere beautifully in between. Tonight, Jade was making dinner, which was a generous term for throwing together pasta and jarred sauce, because cooking had never been her strong suit. She was stirring the pot when Freddie materialized behind her, his presence announced by the familiar cold spot that appeared whenever he crossed over. "Smells good," he said, and she felt his chest press against her back as he looked over her shoulder. "It's Prego and noodles. I'm not exactly a culinary genius." "Still smells good." He paused, then added with genuine curiosity, "What does it taste like?" Jade turned to look at him, the wooden spoon still in her hand. "You've never tasted marinara sauce?" "I've never tasted anything in decades, remember? Dead people don't eat." Something about the way he said it, matter of fact, but with an edge of loss, made Jade's heart twist. She'd gotten so used to the reality of what Freddie was, that sometimes she forgot what he'd given up, or had stolen from him, depending on how he looked at it. "Do you miss it?" she asked softly. "Eating, tasting things?" Freddie shrugged, but there was something in his eyes. Didn't think about it much. Hard to miss what you don't remember clearly, but being around you, watching you eat, smelling food cooking, it brings back echoes, like phantom sensations. What it was like to be hungry for something other than fear. Jade made a decision. She turned off the stove, grabbed a fork, and speared a piece of pasta. "Open up." Freddie stared at her. "What?" "You heard me. Open your mouth. You can exist in my world solid enough to touch me, solid enough to terrify stalkers. That means you've got all the physical components, so let's see if taste works." "Jade, I don't think it works that way. And I don't think we know how it works because we've never tried. Come on, humor me. What's the worst that happens? It doesn't work, and we move on with our lives." Freddie looked at the pasta like it might bite him, which was hilarious considering he was the dangerous one in this relationship. Then, slowly, he opened his mouth. Jade fed him the pasta, watching his face carefully. For a moment, nothing. Freddie's expression stayed neutral, and Jade felt a pang of disappointment. Then, his eyes widened, really widened. He chewed slowly, and something like wonder crossed his ruined features. "Holy shit," he said roughly. "I can taste it. It's faint, not as strong as I remember taste being, but it's there. Tomato, garlic, basil. I can actually taste it." The joy in his voice was so pure, so unexpected, that Jade felt tears prick at her eyes. "You can?" "I can." He stared at her like she'd just performed a miracle. "How is this possible?" "Because the rules keep changing for us," Jade said, setting down the fork and cupping his face with both hands. "You crossed over into my world. We built a bridge that shouldn't exist. Maybe that bridge goes both ways. Maybe being in my reality with me lets you experience things you thought were gone forever." Freddie pulled her against him suddenly, holding her tight enough that she squeaked. "You're fucking magic, you know that? You're the most impossible, wonderful thing that's ever happened to me." Says the dream demon who just discovered pasta, Jade teased, but she hugged him back just as fiercely. They ate dinner together that night. Jade feeding Freddie bites between her own, watching with delight as he experienced flavors he hadn't tasted in decades. He was right that it was muted, not quite as intense as normal taste, but it was there, real enough to matter. "The garlic bread is fucking amazing," Freddie declared, holding a piece like it was treasure. "This is garlic bread, right? I remember this. My mom used to make it." It was the first time he mentioned his mother with anything other than bitterness, and Jade wisely didn't comment on it, just smiled and passed him another piece. After dinner, they ended up on the couch. Jade curled into Freddie's side while some horror movie played on TV that neither of them was really watching. This had become routine too, the simple domesticity of existing together. Freddie's arm around her shoulders, his fingers playing idly with her wild red hair. Jade's hand resting on his chest, feeling the strange, not quite heartbeat that thrummed there. Something that wasn't alive in the technical sense, but wasn't entirely dead either. "I've been working on something," Freddie said suddenly, "in the dream realm. Want to see it?" Jade perked up. "Always. What kind of something?" The surprise. His grin turned mischievous. "Come to bed. I'll show you." They moved to the bedroom, and Jade changed into her favorite royal blue nightshirt while Freddie stretched out on top of the covers, still fully dressed because he didn't need to sleep, and clothing was more aesthetic choice than necessity for him. Jade crawled under the sheets and settled against him, her head on his chest. "Okay," she said, closing her eyes. "Show me." "Sweet dreams, little nightmare," Freddie murmured, and Jade felt his power wrap around her like a blanket, pulling her down into sleep. The dream that formed around her made Jade gasp. They were in a garden, but not any garden that could exist in the waking world. The sky above was deep twilight, stuck perpetually in that magic hour between day and night. Stars wheeled overhead in patterns that were almost but not quite right, constellations that spelled out words in languages that didn't exist. The moon hung low and full, casting silver light that made everything glow. And the flowers. Oh, the flowers. They grew everywhere, riding across a landscape in impossible colors. Roses that shifted from blue to purple to black as you watched them. Lilies with petals that chimed like bells when the wind touched them. Vines that crawled up non-existent walls, heavy with blossoms that smelled like cinnamon and smoke and something uniquely Freddie. In the center of it all was a gazebo, constructed from what looked like moonlight solidified into architecture. Inside it, a table set for 2, candles that burned with blue flame, wine glasses that caught the starlight. Freddie appeared beside her, and when Jade turned to look at him, her breath caught. He looked different here, in this dream he'd crafted. Still himself, still scarred and burned and deadly, but the edges were softer somehow. The fedora was gone, letting her see his face fully. His eyes, usually sharp with predatory awareness, were gentle as they watched her reaction. "You made this," Jade said, and it came out reverent. "For me." "For us," Freddie corrected. He offered his hand, the ungloved one. "I wanted to give you something beautiful, something that was ours and no one else's. A place where we could just be together without the real world or the nightmare world intruding. Just us." Jade took his hand, and he led her to the gazebo. The table was set with food, real food, that steamed and smelled incredible. Somehow Freddy had remembered or researched or dreamed into being an entire meal. "This is the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for me," Jade said as they sat down, "and I'm including the time you terrorized my stalker into leaving the state." "That was romantic too," Freddy protested. "Very romantic. He'll never bother you again." "True. You're a multifaceted romantic. Terror and dream gardens. Very well-rounded." They ate, or Jade ate, while Freddy watched with fascination, occasionally trying bites himself just to experience the muted taste. The food was perfect, exactly what Jade would have ordered if someone had asked her to design a fantasy meal. Pasta again, because apparently Freddy had decided it was his new favorite thing. Garlic bread that was even better than the store-bought stuff from earlier. Salad with strawberries and candied walnuts. Wine that tasted like summer and starlight. "How do you know what I'd want?" Jade asked, sipping the wine. "I'm in your head, remember? I know what you like, what you dream about, all your favorite things." Freddy leaned back in his chair, watching her with those intense eyes. "I've been learning you, Jade, for months now. Every detail, every preference, everything that makes you happy." "That should be creepy," Jade mused. "The whole being in my head thing. But coming from you, it's really sweet." "I contain multitudes," Freddy said grandly. "Terror and sweetness, death and devotion. I'm very complex." "You're very something," Jade agreed, laughing. After dinner, Freddy stood and offered his hand again. Music started playing from nowhere, something slow and dark and beautiful. Jade recognized it as one of the songs she listened to when she wanted to feel dramatic, some gothic orchestral piece that was probably too pretentious, but she loved anyway. "Dance with me," Freddy said. "I don't really know how to dance." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." They moved into the center of the gazebo, and Freddy pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers carefully. Jade's free hand rested on his shoulder, and they swayed together, not quite in time with the music, but not quite out of sync either. "This is nice," Jade murmured, resting her head against his chest. "Just this, being with you without any drama or danger or complications." "Who says there's no danger?" Freddy's voice was warm with amusement. "I'm still a nightmare, Jade. Still fundamentally monster. This could all go sideways at any moment." "But it won't," Jade said with absolute confidence, "because you're my monster, and I trust you." Freddy's arms tightened around her. "You shouldn't. Trust me. I'm not safe." "I don't want safe. I want you. There's a difference." They danced in silence for a while, the garden pulsing with life around them. Jade could feel Freddy's power everywhere here, woven into every petal and blade of grass. This was his domain, crafted entirely from his will, and he made it beautiful for her. "I've been thinking," Freddy said eventually, "about us, about what we're doing." Jade pulled back to look at him. "That sounds ominous. Should I be worried?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." He looked uncharacteristically uncertain. "This thing between us, it's not normal. Not just because I'm dead and you're alive, or because I'm a demon and you're human, but because it shouldn't work. By every rule of how the universe operates, we shouldn't be able to exist like this, together, in both worlds, building something that's part dream and part reality." "But we are existing like this," Jade pointed out, "so clearly the universe is okay with it. Or the universe is waiting to correct the error." Freddy's expression was serious now. "I'm not trying to scare you. I just want you to understand. What we have, it's unprecedented, uncharted territory. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if there are consequences we haven't seen yet. All I know is that I'm not giving this up. I'm not giving you up. Even if the universe itself tries to pull us apart. Crazy. One drains you out. Even if the universe itself tries to pull us apart." Jade reached up to cup his scarred face with both hands. "Then we'll fight the universe, together. Because I'm not giving this up either. You're mine, Freddy Krueger. In every world, in every version of reality. And I'm yours. That's not changing." "Promise?" The word came out rough, almost vulnerable. "Promise," Jade said firmly. "You're stuck with me, for better or worse. Probably worse, given our track record, but I'm okay with that." Freddy kissed her then, deep and claiming, and the garden around them responded. The flowers bloomed brighter, the stars whirled faster overhead. The music swelled into something triumphant and dark. Reality bent and shifted, reflecting the intensity of what they felt. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Freddy's eyes were burning with that particular light that meant he was thinking very specific thoughts. "You know what I want?" he said, his voice dropping into that gravelly purr that made heat pool in Jade's belly. "Tell me." "I want to take you apart right here, in this garden I made for you. I want to lay you down in those flowers and make you scream my name loud enough that it echoes through every dream in the world. I want to mark you and claim you and remind you exactly who you belong to." Jade's breath hitched. "That's very poetic for talking about sex." "I'm a romantic," Freddy said, grinning wickedly. "Didn't I mention that?" "You might have," Jade managed. Her heart was racing now, anticipation singing through her veins. "So what's stopping you?" "Absolutely nothing." He moved fast, swinging her up into his arms with that inhuman strength, and Jade laughed as he carried her out of the gazebo and into the garden proper. The flowers parted for them, creating a clearing carpeted in something soft as velvet. Freddy laid her down carefully, and Jade sank into the ground that wasn't quite ground, cushioned by dream logic and his will. "You're wearing too many clothes," Freddy observed, kneeling beside her. "So are you." Easy fix. Their clothes dissolved because they could, because this was his realm and matter obey his whims. Jade should have gotten used to the casual reality warping by now, but it still sent a thrill through her. The sheer power he wielded so casually, and he used it to undress her. It was absurd and hot and perfectly them. Freddy settled over her, caging her in with his arms, and Jade reached up to trace the scars on his chest. The burns that covered his body, marking him as other, as dangerous as hers. He shivered under her touch, and she smiled at the reaction. "Still sensitive," she murmured. "You have no idea what your touch does to me," Freddy said roughly. "Every time you look at me like I'm something good instead of something monstrous, it unmakes me a little. Makes me want to be whatever you see when you look at me." "I see you," Jade said simply. "All of you. The monster and the man and everything in between. And I love all of it." Something cracked in Freddy's expression, and then he was kissing her like he was drowning, and she was air, desperate, claiming, full of need and want, an emotion too big for words. Jade kissed him back with equal intensity, her hands roaming across his scarred skin, mapping territory she'd explored before, but never tired of discovering. His mouth moved from her lips to her throat, teeth scraping against sensitive skin in a way that made her gasp. The bladed glove traced down her side, careful as always, the metal cool against her overheated skin. His other hand cupped her breast, thumb brushing across her nipple, and Jade arched into the touch with a moan. "That's it," Freddy encouraged, his voice dark velvet. "Let me hear you. Want to know every sound you make, every way I can take you apart." He moved lower, his mouth following the path his hands had traced, kissing and biting and licking his way down her body while Jade writhed beneath him, already desperate for more. When he reached the apex of her thighs, he looked up at her with eyes that burned. Mine, he said, and it was a declaration and a promise and a threat all at once. Then his mouth was on her, and Jade cried out at the sensation. He wiped her with dedicated focus, using his tongue and teeth and the knowledge he accumulated about exactly what drove her wild. The pleasure built quickly, spiraling higher, and Jade's hands found his head, fingers tangling in his hair as she held him against her. Freddie, she gasped. Oh God, Freddie, don't stop. Wouldn't dream of it, he murmured against her flesh, and the vibration of his voice sent her over the edge. The orgasm crashed through her, and Jade screamed his name just like he wanted. The sound echoed through the dream garden, rippling outward, and the flowers around them burst into bloom in response. Reality shuddered, responding to the intensity of her pleasure. Freddie worked her through it, drawing out every last shudder before crawling back up her body with a supremely satisfied expression. You're very pleased with yourself, Jade managed, still breathless. I made you scream, and the flowers bloomed. That's objectively impressive. Your ego is showing. My ego is justified. Jade laughed and pulled him down for a kiss, tasting herself on his lips. The intimacy of it made her shiver. Everything with Freddie was intense, overwhelming, too much, and exactly enough, all at once. She could feel him hard against her thigh, and she rolled her hips deliberately. Freddie groaned, his control visibly fraying. You're trying to kill me, he accused. You're already dead. Now get inside me before I decide to take matters into my own hands. Bossy, but he was positioning himself, the head of his cock pressing against her entrance. I love it when you're bossy. He pushed inside in one smooth thrust, and they both made sounds of satisfaction. The stretch, the fullness, the perfect way they fit together never got old. Freddie stayed still for a moment, letting her adjust, his forehead pressed against hers and his breathing harsh. You feel incredible, he said roughly. Every single time. Like you were made for me. Maybe I was, Jade said, wrapping her legs around his waist. Maybe the universe knew I'd need someone as twisted as you to understand me. Then the universe did something right for once. He started to move, slow at first, but building to a rhythm that had Jade clinging to him desperately. The pleasure built again, different from before, deeper, more consuming, connected to him in ways that went beyond physical. The garden pulsed around them, responding to their joint pleasure. Flowers opened and closed in time with their movements. The stars overhead wheeled faster. The music swelled and twisted into something primal and beautiful. Freddie's pace increased, his control finally shattering completely. He drove into her with abandon, and Jade met him thrust for thrust, their bodies moving together with desperate synchronization. Mine, Freddie growled against her ear. Say it. Tell me you're mine. Yours, Jade gasped. Always yours. In every world, in every dream. Yours. The orgasm built higher, tighter, until Jade thought she'd break from the intensity. Freddie's hand found her clit, rubbing in tight circles, and that was it. She shattered, crying out as pleasure consumed her. Freddie followed a heartbeat later, her name a harsh shout as he came. And the dream garden exploded around them. Flowers burst into being everywhere, thousands of them. The sky lit up with aurora light. The music reached a crescendo that sounded like joy and triumph and forever. They collapsed together, tangled in each other and the flowers that cushioned them. Breathing hard, hearts racing, connected in every way that mattered. That was, Jade started, then stopped because words felt inadequate. Yeah, Freddie agreed, understanding anyway. It really was. They lay there for a long time, the garden slowly settling around them into something calmer, but no less beautiful. Freddie's arms wrapped around Jade, holding her close. Jade's head rested on his chest, listening to the not-quite heartbeat that thrummed there. I meant what I said, Freddie said eventually. About the universe. About fighting for this. I'm not losing you, Jade. Whatever comes, whatever tries to tear us apart, I'll burn it all down before I let that happen. I know, Jade said softly, and I'll be right there with you, burning everything down. Together. Together, Freddie repeated, and kissed the top of her head. Eventually, Jade felt real sleep pulling at her, the deep, dreamless kind that her body actually needed. Freddie sensed it too, and shifted them carefully, wrapping her in something that felt like the softest blanket, but was probably woven from pure dream energy. Sleep, he commanded gently. Real sleep. I'll keep watch. Always watching, Jade murmured, already drifting. Always watching, Freddie confirmed. It's what I do best. When Jade woke in the morning, back in her physical body in her blue-sheeted bed, Freddie was still there, solid and present, stretched out beside her like he belonged there. Which he did, absolutely did. Morning, she said, stretching. Morning, Freddie replied. Sleep well? After you wore me out in the dream garden? Yeah, I slept great. She poked him in the ribs. Show off. You loved it. I really did. They got up, and Jade went through her morning routine with Freddie following like a shadow. He'd taken to doing this, just being present during the mundane parts of her day, watching her brush her teeth, sitting on the bathroom counter while she did her makeup, following her to the kitchen for breakfast. Coffee? Jade offered, pouring herself a cup. Can I taste it? Only one way to find out. Freddie tried to sip and made a face. That's bitter. That's coffee. Most people add sugar and cream. People are smart. They doctored his cup until it was more cream and sugar than coffee, and Freddie declared it acceptable. Jade made toast, and he shared it while standing in her kitchen, and it was so domestic and normal that it made her heart ache. This was what she'd wanted without knowing she wanted it. Someone to share mundane mornings with. Someone who was fascinated by the ordinary because he'd been denied it for so long. Someone who looked at her over coffee like she'd hung the stars. What's on your agenda today? Freddie asked. Work at the bookstore. Probably a slow day. Maybe dinner with Amy if she's free. Amy was Jade's best friend, one of the few people who knew about Freddie and had somehow accepted it with disturbing ease. You? Terrorizing random dreams. Maybe haunting some teenagers who think they're brave. The usual. He paused. Or I could just hang around you. Be your supernatural shadow. You do that anyway. True. But I could be more obvious about it. Jade laughed and kissed him, tasting coffee and sugar and something uniquely Freddie. Do whatever makes you happy. Just don't kill anyone I know. Your standards are so low. I'm dating a dream demon. Low standards come with the territory. The day proceeded normally, which was to say, normally for them. Jade went to work, and Freddie appeared randomly throughout her shift, sitting in the horror section, reading, lurking behind the register, and making her laugh when she was supposed to be helping customers, materializing in the back room just to steal a kiss before vanishing again. Margaret, her boss, had somehow adapted to Freddie's existence with the ease of someone who'd seen too much weirdness to be fazed by a little thing like a manifesting nightmare boyfriend. Your young man is in the back again, Margaret said dryly during the afternoon lull. Tell him if he's going to haunt my store, she'll at least help with inventory. I'll let him know, Jade said, trying not to laugh. That evening, Jade met Amy for dinner at their favorite Thai place. Amy arrived first, her dark curls pulled back in a messy bun, her expression amused as always. "So," Amy said as soon as Jade sat down, "how's the demon?" "He's good, clingy, learned he can taste food now, which has been adorable." "Your boyfriend is a mass murderer who's been dead for decades, and you're using the word adorable." "He made me a garden in the dream room," Jade said defensively, "with flowers and a gazebo and everything. It was romantic." "It was definitely something," Amy agreed. "I'm not judging. Honestly, he's better than your last boyfriend. At least Freddie is honest about being dangerous." "Right? That's what I keep saying." They ordered food, and Jade filled Amy in on the recent developments. The stalker situation, though Amy already knew about that, the way Freddie had started exploring human experiences again through her, the strange, wonderful domesticity of their life together. "You're happy," Amy observed, and she sounded genuinely pleased. "I can see it. You're glowing, babe, and love looks good on you. Even when the love is with something that technically shouldn't exist. Especially then. Normal was never your speed anyway." After dinner, Jade headed home, pleasantly full and content. She found Freddie already in her apartment, sprawled on her couch like he owned it, which, at this point, he kind of did. "Good dinner?" he asked. "Very good." Amy says hi. Army's terrifying. I respect that about her. Jade settled beside him, and they fell into their evening routine. TV playing softly, Freddie's arm around her shoulders, Jade's head on his chest, the simple comfort of being together. "I've been thinking," Jade said after a while. "Dangerous activity." "Shut up," she poked him. "I've been thinking about us, about this life we're building, and I realized something." "What's that?" "I'm happier now than I've ever been, like genuinely, deeply happy. And it's because of you, because you see me and accept me and love me exactly as I am. Darkness and weirdness and all." Freddie was quiet for a moment, his fingers playing with her hair. "You know what the strangest part is? I'm happy too. I didn't think I could feel that anymore. Thought I burned out that capacity along with everything else when I died. But you brought it back. Made me remember what it's like to want something besides fear and death." "Look at us," Jade said softly. "A woman who never fit in, and a demon who'd forgotten how to feel, building something beautiful out of nightmares." "It's pretty fucking beautiful," Freddie agreed. They stayed like that until Jade's eyes grew heavy. Then Freddie carried her to bed, tucked her in with surprising gentleness, and stretched out beside her. "Dream of me," he said, and it was both command and request. "Always," Jade promised, and let sleep take her. The dream that formed was their garden again, but different, growing, expanding, new elements appearing as they both unconsciously added to it. A fountain in one corner, a path made of smooth stones that led somewhere new, a tree with silver leaves that whispered secrets. It was evolving, the space they'd created together, becoming more complex and detailed with every visit. A world within a world, built from love and desire and the sheer impossible fact of their connection. Freddie was waiting at the gazebo, and Jade ran to him, laughing. He caught her and spun her around, and for that moment, everything was perfect. They had this. Their life between worlds. Their love built from nightmares and devotion. Their future, uncertain and strange, and absolutely theirs. And whatever came next, they'd face it together. In dreams and waking both. Forever.